It is time for another episode of the Cultural Hall. It is the last news episode of 2023. Now, in my heart of hearts and my hope of hopes, there will be a news roundup, a top 23 stories of 2023 that will still come out either right on New Year's or right around New Year's. So that will likely be the next episode. But this will be the last time that we sort of go around the news. And so I thought, why not hearken back to our younger years when we used to have multiple hosts do the news? We used to, if you guys can imagine, neither of you guys did this. One of you couldn't even do this if we did this. We used to all meet together physically in the same place once a week to do an episode. It's Megan the Mitch Mitchell and Mr. Mayor. Good morning or afternoon or evening or whatever. Time is non-existent in podcast. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
You having extra people on here means that when I screw up, you can always move to Megan.
That is 100% why Megan is here, and so that you don't feel bad, Andrew. That's 100% why you're here too.
Oh.
I was going to say, because what if I mess up?
Yeah. And it's cute that you said what if. There's no mess ups, guys. Life. It's right. That's what life is. It's a series of mess ups that we find our way through, blah, 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 blah.
We're all making it up as we go along.
Yeah. So long as we dance like no one is watching and we learn to live and love, that's the time of year that we're in. I got to tell you guys this. I stepped in it a little bit. I posted the other day on the Cultural Hall Facebook page about Sundays, the Sundays of Christmas and the Sundays of Easter. And I said, listen, I don't think that we need to, I didn't say it this way, but this is sort of the attitude that I've taken since I posted. But I said, hey, you know what? I think that we're missing a missionary opportunity with Christmas.
Oh, yeah, about the Christmas Eve night.
Well, okay, there was two posts. One, yeah, I think we should do something Christmas Eve. That's not this. I went to church on Sunday. We did the hour church. That should have been church-wide. So if you went to 2 hours, maybe you need to talk to your stake president about your bishop. But we went, and the first, here are a few things I loved, right? We're gonna make a sandwich, right? Where I say some things I love, some things I'd like to change, and then some positive things on the other side. So here's some things that I loved about it. One, I really loved that on and in the Christmas season, I was able to take the sacrament. I actually didn't think that it was going to be a sacrament Sunday for some reason. I thought maybe it was like stake conference, or they combined 3 wards for us.
Oh, really?
So I thought, yeah, because we all meet in the same building, and I think that,
just knock it all out at one time.
Yeah, they do it at one time so that it can be, this big sort of, gathering of everyone, and so that, people aren't having to do it at
getting all the deacons from all the wards. You probably had a lot of deacons, and
so we'll get to that because part of that, but no. So we just are like, okay, we do it. So we do it at 10 o'clock. They pick the optimal church time, I think, that we can all agree at, which is 10 in the morning. Get it done by 11. So, but we go, and they open. We're about 3/4 of the way into the gym. They didn't have chairs set up, beyond the gym. So we're doing the thing where people are doing, the announcements, and we're setting up chairs in the back. So that, not ideal, pass. That's fine. But then we get to the sacrament, and the sacrament easily went until 10:30, 10:35. So more than half of the meeting, which is great, and is the point to the meeting, I suppose, right? It's the renewing of our covenants. I don't want to take that
suppose.
lightly. So here is the thing. So if I am a church member, that is the point to the meeting. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going because I made these covenants and I want to be able to renew these covenants. I'm not downplaying that by any means, but it took so long, and there's not anything that's going on during it that if you are a guest, if you are just visiting, you're sitting for 30 minutes. Now you'd hope that it would be like, well, the Spirit could touch their heart, and they could be, during that time, but you're not supposed to be talking. So it's not like a thing like, right now what we're doing is we're focusing on the sacrifice of the Savior, and we want, you're just supposed to be quiet. And so it was a really, really long time to do that, and they just didn't have enough people passing. To your point, Andrew, they have, like, we never have enough. We have 4 young men in our ward that pass, and so we just sort of make our way through the 4 young men passing. They only had 8, and I swear to you, when I noticed that there was 8, I just about pointed out my, the couple friends that I have that I know would be worthy to do it as well, and be like, let's go, because we don't have to, let's just get this going. And then we had one speaker, which you're thinking, that's great. One speaker, you get the guy he's the traveling public speaker, that's what his profession is, or he's a former minister of this, or and the one guy who spoke, the things that he spoke about were so great.
Mhm.
Talked about the need of a savior, talked about the love that he has for us, in the most drawn out, monotone voice ever as he read it. And so I was sitting there thinking, and I'm like, am I just being a critical? Am I a poopy pants? Was the joke that I made inside my head. Am I just like, I got in this and now everything is whatever? And I'm like, no, this could be better. And then we sang, like 3 or 4 hymns, which I like a hymn. But it was literally 35 minutes of sacrament, speaker that was reading in a non-exciting voice, this kind of thing. And then, well, we're going to sing until it hits 11 o'clock and then you guys can go. And I looked around from where I was at, and there were lots of people that I know aren't there on any other Sunday.
Yeah.
Namely my wife, who's next to me going, how long is this going to take?
So that's what I was going to ask. I'm like, are you looking, you're probably looking at it from a little bit different lens than some people, because
Different
Christmas
perspective.
Eve is especially when church shows up on Christmas Eve, for a lot of members, I think we got to do the bare minimum. We got to do the most important thing, which is the sacrament.
Sure.
Everything else is peripheral to it. But you're coming in looking at it from the lens of, hey, I'm bringing my wife to Christmas Eve.
Sure.
Wife's not a member. There's just that extra, lens that you're looking at it from. Or maybe other years when you weren't married to your current wife, that you might have gone, yeah, glad this is over. This is great. Let's move on.
Yeah. But so many people, gentlemen, literally right across the aisle from me, jeans and a t-shirt, and and I don't want to make that assessment or judgment, but probably I feel pretty accurate in guessing he, not a member or doesn't come, and said to his wife or girlfriend, whoever was next to him, who was dressed, hey, you know what? It's on Christmas Eve. I'll go with you. And I just think that there is enough of that. And within our culture, there is enough that is bred where it's like Christmas and Easter, at least that's the kind of thing that you can do. In Christendom, that's what we do. And I just feel like if we could put our best foot forward, we would serve ourselves just a little bit better by thinking, okay, you know what? Maybe we'll have way too many people passing the sacrament, but let's have 16 people and let's just get this thing done lickety split. And we got a speaker. I know that, I was going to try and remember your husband's name, Megan, and I can't remember his name.
Carson Mitchell.
Carson. And we know Carson does a great job speaking, but we know he just spoke 2 weeks ago, but we're going to have him speak again for the Christmas thing. And then we know that Andrew sings really well. So we're going to get Andrew and his wife to sing a duet, and then we'll sing a song. And then we know that, Sister Jasperson, she plays the organ really well. So we'll let her play a number. And so I posted that on Facebook, and people were like, if you went and you didn't feel the spirit, that's on you. And I'm just like, oh my gosh,
that's not the point.
That is not the point.
Yeah. They missed the point.
Yeah.
I agree with that statement. I think, look at, we fall in the this falls in that category of the best things about the church is that we're a lay ministry, and the worst things about the church is that we're a lay ministry, all in the same time. And so I agree with the statement in general. The idea that, like, if you go to the church and someone's up there trying their best, even if they're not trying their best, if you don't feel the spirit, it's on you. I agree with that statement in general, but but you're not talking about that. That's that's the thing. you're talking about this opportunity we have with Christmas Eve, which is a unique opportunity that people will come to church, and where, they feel obligated, or they feel not obligated, they feel inspired to come to church
Mhm.
on that time. And if we could have that opportunity to show them, hey, the Spirit can be here. We can really do a good job. And the fact that it is a truncated meeting, that we don't have other callings going on, you could conceivably say we should focus 100% on a smaller, well-managed, really well done sacrament meeting. That, yes, we're gonna get in and get out, but we're gonna do it in style. We're gonna do it great.
Yep.
I will
Yeah.
say my ward did a great job of that. Not just because I did sing, because I did, but but truthfully, that wasn't the highlight of it. The speakers they had, how well it was orchestrated. Got to give my bishop a lot of credit for thinking through it, because early in the month, I was in my head, I was thinking, well, no, I was told that it was going to be me singing and the bishop talking, and that was going to be the whole thing.
Mm.
And so
Wow.
I even, like, the night before, I started thinking that can't be all that we're doing, right? And so I texted him like, you mind if I bear my testimony? And he came back, he's like, no, I don't think we're gonna have time. And I'm like, oh, that's not what I was expecting. So cool, I'll just sing and
Good.
get off. Good. And turns out he had the primary children come up, which, by the way, you can always do a really good job on Christmas Eve. Just have the primary children get up and sing one song. I mean, that usually, like, anyone outside of the church, even if they do a terrible job, everyone loves that.
Sure.
So there's
Everyone
that.
loves a kid singing.
Yeah, they had a friend of ours. She spoke, and she was exceptional. Then I sang, and then the first counselor of the bishopric came up and summed it all up, focused on how tell the story of Christ visiting, and the Christmas story from the Book of Mormon. I mean, it was really a well done. It had enough for everyone, out of the church, into the church. So I got to give props to my bishop.
Yeah, show it off. Braggart. That's cool. That's fun.
Our word
Yeah,
was almost exclusively music,
yeah. I
which was
love that.
awesome.
I love that exception.
And it was great. We had people who aren't members of our ward who came,
Mhm.
and say we had one gal who came and sang. We had another duo as like brothers who
Now,
played a
people that
piano
aren't from your ward who came and participated in the meeting, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying? Or people
in the
Oh, wow.
program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had a brother or a brother and brother duo play the cello and the piano. We had a pop-up choir where they basically just said, this is the song we're singing. If you want to join, come on up.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was really cool. And it sounded amazing. And here's the thing, like, we are a church that very much appreciates talent, and we
Mhm.
develop talent. And so we should mine the talent
Mhm.
for things like this, and we had one sister who maybe she's kind of struggling with her faith, but she came up and sang the most beautiful Silent Night.
Mm.
And she shared how she was a history teacher. And so she talked about the Christmas Eve truce that happened during World War I and how this song played into that.
Wow.
And then our bishop said, we're going to have a testimony from somebody. I don't know who yet, but I'll call them up out of the audience after this musical number. And he brought up this sister who gave a beautiful testimony of the Savior. And it was amazing.
Mm.
It was amazing. And so it's one of those things where I look at it and I go, it's not hard to create a beautiful spirit-filled sacrament meeting for Christmas Eve. And it's also like, this is the chance to kind of break the mold a little bit of what we're used to. So think outside the box a little bit.
Come on, people. I will say this about that, and then we'll sort of wrap it up. We'll take a break and we'll do actual articles of news. I think I'm also a little spoiled. In my old ward, when I lived in downtown Salt Lake, the piano guys would perform for
dang.
Christmas Sunday, because the brother, I guess one half of the piano guys, the cellist, his brother was in our ward, and he would visit with him on Christmas Sunday. And so you'd be sitting and, you'd listen to the person, and then the most amazing musical number comes from the stand, and you're like, what? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Like I was
Well,
at
that's kinda
sacrament
like
meeting and a concert broke out.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of like years ago. I have a friend of mine. She's a Tony Award winning singer
Well,
in St. George. Lisa Hopkins Segmiller lives in Washington County, St. George. We went down to visit them, knowing that she was going to sing at their Christmas breakfast that morning.
mm-hmm.
We thought this is perfect. We get to see, I mean, I think of Lisa in two. There's Lisa, who's just a friend of ours,
Yeah.
and then there's the Tony Award winning singer. So we got to go see the Tony Award winning singer. Anyway, so guess who's also in the ward? The piano guys.
Oh,
So
wow.
then they both did their things, and then they had this impromptu where they did something together, and we were just like, we're just coming to breakfast at church.
Yeah.
At the church Christmas party.
Wow.
So anyway,
yeah.
so that's a lot of fun.
Worth the 10% price of admission. And
By
then,
the way, I should get Lisa on and have you interview her.
Yes. Why that's the real egregious mistake in all that. And then the last thing that I'll say about the church thing is that I'm 99% sure that the reason why I'm meeting with my bishop on Sunday is that he's going to put me in charge of Easter.
Awesome.
That, or please don't.
He's been listening to
dirty
the
laundry.
pod. Yeah, on the pod.
Yep.
Or maybe both. If you are going to air your dirty laundry on there, I'm going to give you a calling for you to rectify it.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, either way, the deed has been done at this point. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to plow through as many news articles as we can. We'll come back in the second half to do articles of news. Here in the second half of articles of news, we do actual articles of news. Hit it, Peter. And away we go. It's too bad we don't share the in-between from when we're doing the first part to the second part. People would be just wowed by the conversation that happens there. And that's all that I'm going to say about that. Megan the Mitch, you are the lady. Ladies first. What's news story do you take us to?
Tim Ballard. He's in the news. He has responded to lawsuits alleging sexual misconduct, but he says that the plaintiff stole data. So his response, he said frequently that he's not guilty of what he's been accused of, but this in particular, in a motion filed on December 20th in the 3rd District Court, he asks the judge to strike certain evidence from the record because he says it was obtained improperly. So one of the women who is suing him, her name is Celeste Voorhees. She was a former executive assistant to Tim Ballard. She had all of his email sign-in credentials up until just a few days before her lawsuit was filed. And Tim Ballard is alleging that she utilized those credentials to steal privileged information from Operation Underground Railroad and from his other projects, I guess. So basically, he says, or the filing says, the handling of these complaints seems more aimed at smearing Mr. Ballard in the press than about prosecuting lawsuits. So he's also saying that they can't really respond to the other allegations because he only knows like the pseudonyms of the people who are suing him.
I don't even know what Kathy. Who's Kathy? I don't even know.
Exactly.
Kathy. Yeah.
I'm only guilty if you can actually prove I'm guilty with things that are legitimate, I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if I actually did it or not.
Exactly. Yep. So more sunshine and rainbows from Tim Ballard.
Oof. All right. Andrew, save us, please.
That's all.
Well, did you know that Utah is no longer a majority Mormon state?
I wondered who was going to try and snag this story up. Yeah, talk about it.
It was the top of the list, so I just took that one. That's my choice. That's my choosing.
That's how I pick.
That's how I pick. Whichever one comes next. So there's a few things about this. So I think most of us can understand that there's been a lot of non-Mormons moving into Utah. So that's an obvious reason why this case. But there's a few other reasons why it may be not as big of a story, or maybe bigger story to you than it is. Because first of all, there's significant differences in what members of the church count as Mormons, which we define as anyone baptized as a member. But
so you're on the records, that's a Mormon.
That's a Mormon, right? Yeah. And so sociologists don't do it that way. They don't go just pull the Mormon church's records and say that's where the Mormon church is. You could do that with Catholics, and that would be different as well. So what they do is anyone who self-identifies as Mormon. So people, I think one of the key things of this, people who self-identify as Mormon have declined significantly, and that has moved into it. And with that, this constant move towards secularization, meaning I don't really identify as anything, right? I'm just I'm not religious. And so that has increased significantly as well. And so that shift is, you got to take some with a grain of salt, but I think it's telling in across the board that, first of all, we have a lot of people moving in from out of state, not members of the church. That has grown significantly in there, but also this understanding of people who we would consider Mormons or members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. People we would consider members of the church because they actively are, may not be part of these discussions. So anyway, but I think it is telling that, all my life, Utah has been predominantly, Mormon or LDS. And now, it seems that that's not always the case. And I don't necessarily see that as bad. I see that as the church is growing, becoming more of a worldwide church. But I also see that, there's a increased secularization going on, and maybe we could do better at welcoming visitors in.
Yeah, you mentioned the interesting part of the statistic, which is 42% would say that they're LDS, Mormon, whatever, as far as self-identifying, and then the church would say that it's 60% of the state of Utah. So on the records are 60%. So that gap has always been there, but it's certainly probably the widest that it's ever been. They talk about how some part of it is how back in the day, we all were like, gather to Utah. Come and be a Mormon in Utah. This is where the place to be is. And that's no longer the case. The church is sort of spread out and being able to do that. And then people just not having kids. But the big thing for me, the thing that I think that we need to start now is the joke has long been, you got called to serve in the Utah mission, one of the Utah missions. Oh man, they're just going to be helping activate non-member or, inactive people or stuff. There's lots of people in the state of Utah that have not heard of the gospel, whether they've moved here or they've immigrated here or whatever the thing may be. And I think that it's going to be that paradigm shift for members of the church here in Utah to go, hey, there's lots of people around us that don't know. Whereas in the past, we would have said things like, oh, FHE at the war, at the, that kind of stuff. That we need to start eliminating because not everyone is. In fact, the majority is not.
The whole gathering towards the stake. I was just thinking, with the influx of temple building throughout the world, it's I don't know if it's chicken or the egg thing. I'm sure some of it is because we have members all throughout the world, but also when we build temples all around the world, someone who wants to be near a temple doesn't have to travel all the way back to Utah or move all the way back to Utah to be near a temple. So now temples are everywhere. It kind of falls in the same category as what happened after COVID with work, right? This idea that I don't have to live near a big city anymore. I can live anywhere I want, and I can zoom in or whatever. And so I think that there's some of that going on as well.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Megan?
Well, I was going to say that going back to what you were saying, Richie, about missionary work here in Utah. So my uncle served his mission in Salt Lake City back in like the 70s, late 70s. And I was talking to him one time when I was younger, when I didn't understand the ways of the world, and I was like, why would you go on a mission to Utah? They don't need missionaries. And he's like, no, I was so busy all the time. And I was like, yeah, how many people did you baptize? And he's like, I stopped counting after 60.
Jeez.
And now to put that into perspective, my husband served in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I asked him the same question. And he was like, I stopped counting after 60, and so the work has always been moving in Utah, but it's us that needs to change our perspective on it, because it's always been
stopped counting, but that was because we didn't ever even get
close. I stopped counting because it made me too sad.
But there's work to be done here in Utah, and there always has been.
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
sure.
I have been known to say we all have work, let no one shirk. I have been known
Exactly.
to say that.
Yep.
So let us put our shoulder to the wheel. Next story. This is kind of interesting. This obviously with Come Follow Me, we're going to be studying the Book of Mormon in 2024. And as
Book of Mormon stories that my teacher tells to me.
the manuscript, part of the original manuscript can now be seen as part of the Joseph Smith Papers. So if you go to the Joseph Smith Papers website, this is a big deal, being able to see the actual original manuscript. Kind of just a cool thing. You can see the original manuscript of the Book of Mormon, images that were used for Volume 5. You can see by being able to zoom in what the why can't I think of what the word is? The penmanship looks like. You can see and be able to read that. And for some people, I think the thing that I think is exciting about it is it allows you to, I don't know, maybe like see that there is some historicity or like I don't want to say authenticness to it, but like it's the same thing for me. Like when I went to Kirtland and I remember hearing the stories of the things that happened in Kirtland, and I'm like, oh, I am at the place where these things happened, right? And the same is true for other parts of history. I was at the place where Gettysburg happened. Went to the place where this, whatever, right? Like there's an interesting.
It makes it more real to you when you
Yeah.
can actually, you're
A
right
little more
there, right?
immersive.
Yeah, immersive is a perfect word for it. And so, with us studying the Book of Mormon and Come Follow Me this next year, it's a great opportunity. You should check it out. That's at the Joseph Smith Papers website. I want to take another story just real quick as we plow through some of these stories.
I wanted to really quickly say, did you know that
What?
one of the main things that that caused the degradation of the papers or whatever they are
Tell me.
is because they gave them away as fragments, away as souvenirs. I read that article and I was like, that was one of the, like, you can imagine the water damage and the
Sure.
age and the light damage and all those things, but one of the significant things they had to combat was fragments being missing because people had like cut them out and given them to people as souvenirs.
I've got a
Yeah, wasn't that Emma's
smartwatch.
second husband who did that?
Yeah, I don't know who did it. I just thought that, I think in our modern sense of, like, we think of archaeology because we watch the History Channel and we watch all these things. So we think of things so differently than they did like 150 years ago. And they're like, oh yeah, you want a piece of history? Here, have a piece. And
You know,
that would, like, no one would do that today.
you say that, but who doesn't have a brick from, the original Temple Square, fence?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We do that kind of stuff all the
I don't.
time still. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't, not with documents.
Well, bricks are the documents of Mason work. Andrew.
There you go. Okay. Oh, all right.
I don't know.
Still,
Nice stretch.
I think it just blows my mind that that's what happened. Sorry, I had to interject.
No, I think it is a fascinating thing. And then coming on the other side of it to be like calling all people who had affiliation with the church. Does anyone have a piece that has part of this letter? And so you see a bunch of people who maybe are
just bring it in and let us scan it. You can have it back afterwards.
Yeah. Let's see. My piece goes here and your piece here. This story I thought was fascinating. The church now owns $2 billion of U.S. farmland, more acreage than Bill Gates and China combined. This obviously a follow-up to the story about how the church recently has bought up a bunch of land in Nebraska. Certainly, we own a ton of land in Florida. We have talked about that before. And so it's just it's remarkable. It is to some people a thing that they go, well, I'm glad to be a member of a church that owns, so much, real estate in farming lands. For the amount that we own of it, I think I'm at the point that I want us to be talking about it a little bit more. That's sort of how my feeling is. I don't know. I don't think anything nefarious is going on, certainly. But I think that it's like we own so much that I really would like the church to be like, hey, we are the largest landowners in the United States, and here is why we are doing that. We just recently purchased 370,000 acres in Nebraska. And here's why. Not because they have to justify it necessarily, but I just think the immensity of it, it would do us well. Same in the same way that, you know, when everything came about with the church and 100 billion, you know, in money, and, you know, what are we doing? And since that time, the church has said, and 1 million has gone here and 38 million's gone here, and, you know, whatever. I think it would do us well to be like, and here is what's going on in Nebraska. Our large
It's always better if we
town.
own the story, right? If we own the dialogue, we basically
Yes.
like, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
Here's what we're doing it, and here's what we, you know, why we do it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
and talk
is.
about how it's going to benefit the community. You know,
Yeah,
one of the things I was reading in that story is that a lot of farmers are feeling displaced, and it's like, well, that's not good.
sure.
But like, what is the benefit to the church then buying that land, and what are they doing for everybody in the area?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the thing is that it doesn't. You know, I know some of the stuff in like Florida is for cattle grazing and things like that. Like I think even just a mention of like, hey, we're going to make this, or, you know, as these farmers are feeling displaced, it's like, hey, no, don't feel displaced. We bought this, and we would love. It can be another opportunity of mission work, right? You're not able to do the thing that you were doing before. We would love it if you would come work for this. And here's this amazing thing that we're doing with this. Because, to Andrew's point, if we don't fill in the story, everyone else will. Churches buying the land.
They're building a bridge so that we can walk from Salt Lake to Missouri. So
A land
they're just
bridge. I love it.
making
Yeah.
a land bridge.
Yeah,
So you can come up with all kinds of fun conspiracy
See?
theories. Let's start some.
Yeah, I think we just did.
Yeah.
Did. So
My name goes on that. So when it comes up in my temple recommend interview, I can say that was me.
Yeah, I did that. That conspiracy theory is me. You know, I think we're the largest landowners in like 12 of the 50 states. So I think there will come a time, it seems to me, or I hope to me, that they'll say, hey, here's the plan. Here's what we're doing. Because these aren't church buildings that are being put on these farmlands. In some of these places,
it could be like the rock rolling story. We could add that conspiracy to it, where we're going to roll to expand to cover the entire earth, and then we could get into more trouble like we did back 150 years ago, where everyone thought we were going to try and take over the United States and caused a lot of mob attacks on us.
That sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, we could do that.
Megan, what do you got? What do you got for us? Get us out of this.
All right, Ruby Franke, ick. Richie, you sent me this story, and I was like, well, this is the most unsurprising plot twist in that all of the money that they made, she kept it from her children.
Yeah.
Surprising, probably nobody. In this article, there's a third-party site that's quoted with the estimated worth of the 8 Passengers YouTube channel and the Franke family. The net worth was $2.5 million in 2021.
Which surprised me it was that low, I think.
Yes, I agree. But still, it's money I'll never see. You know, I'll never see money like that.
Sure.
The channel reportedly made $195 per day and $838 per week. The majority of the earnings came from YouTube ads and sponsored content and clothing sales, and that all came crashing down in a very fiery way when Ruby Franke was arrested for child abuse and neglect. Yeah, the whole thing, I could go on and on about the different allegations lodged against her, but I think it's interesting. There's kind of a time right now when we're talking about children who are kind of being raised in this digital space. You know, the kids coming up right now are the first generation who have their entire lives online, you know, and I've seen I've read and heard a lot of people who are like, there has to be protection in place for kids who are affiliated with blogger families, and there's just none. There's none. To protect their privacy, to protect their financial, you know, investments, you know, all of that. And there's just nothing. And then you have things like this come up. And by the way, the Franke family is not the first family to be accused of child abuse in regards to their YouTube videos.
Sure.
And like the deeper you go and the further you go down these rabbit holes, it's astonishing how many children are outright being abused on YouTube for likes and clicks and shares and money. And none of those kids are seeing any sort of compensation for all that they do. So
yeah.
That's my little soapbox.
Well, and along with it, an adjacent story of things that have happened in the last week or so with that story, both Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke have pled. Ruby Franke, 4 of the 6 charges of child abuse she has pled guilty to, and Jody Hildebrandt, her partner, as well, 4 of the 4.
But interesting, they're not all the same.
They're not all the same counts.
Pled to are not all the same charges.
Yeah.
Or allegations.
Yep. But they have pled and are now to be sentenced. And the thought is, I heard this was speculation, so I'll pass that along for sure. That the judge in the particular case with Ruby Franke will likely sentence her for a good deal of time. There was some sort of information around that individual or around that particular thing, because she could be anywhere. I think it's anywhere from 1 to 15 years per count.
Yeah, so it could be 4 to 60.
Yeah, and they're thinking that it'll likely be somewhere around the 30 to 40 years range, which is pretty remarkable when you think about something like that. So, yeah, gross. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I do what I can.
Andrew, what would you like to talk about?
Nothing, not after that.
No.
Sorry.
I'll bring up a really happy story.
Okay.
The St. David man acquitted in a threat case against his mother amid controversial trial. So Donald Dean Latham from St. David was acquitted at the Cochise County jury on 6 felony charges, including influencing and intimidating witnesses. The charges were related to allegations made in February 2021, where he was accused of threatening to behead his mother at an Arizona church. So apparently he went to church and decided that's a good time to threaten his mom with beheading, because maybe he was in the middle of talking about the Book of Mormon, and maybe he was talking about Nephi and
shiz.
layman.
Yeah,
and
could have been talking about shiz.
Just said, you know what? That's what I'm going to do to you, Mom. I don't know. I'm just adding. But there was a lot of there wasn't enough evidence, I guess, to say that was true. But he still has significant legal issues since he remains incarcerated following a conviction of 2 felony counts of attempted aggravated assault of peace officers. So just because he got off of the one charge doesn't mean he's for sure a really good guy. And I have a feeling there's more to it than the evidence suggests. And so my guess is he probably did go to church and
do something like that. Yeah. May he get the help that he needs. It's a wild story. I can remember a couple years ago when we actually talked about it, because the premise is almost as ridiculous as you made it sound, which is guy goes to church and says, "Yeah, Mom, I'm gonna take your head off," and everyone, what is this?
Is this real?
Is this in Doctrine and Covenants in the back? Is this where are we finding this?
What reference are you covering?
Where are we? Oh, Maccabees. Got it. Okay. Let's see where to go next. He says out loud as he scours the different things that he sent everyone to chat about beforehand. Okay, let's go here. Roseanne Barr, for people who don't know, yes, that Roseanne, originally a member of the church from Utah, has some connection to, the delicious Dunford chocolate on chocolate donuts. Has some connection to that family, which is kind of exciting. She was recently on a podcast with Tucker Carlson. Sorry, excuse me. And they were talking about the ancient mounds in Missouri And Carlson referred to Latter-day Saint beliefs about ancient America, saying, quote, "I've certainly spent a lot of my life making fun of that, but I'm going to stop." The two began discussing subject and history that will still mystify some scholars. Carlson continued, "Here in North America, there are certain archaeological ruins, say in the state of Missouri, that were not built by the descendants of the current Native American Indians. We know that. They are a mile long in Missouri right now." If you've never read anything about this, it is a pretty fascinating kind of rabbit hole you can find yourself going down into, not necessarily the mounds, but the rabbit hole about these mile-long mounds in Missouri. They're called the Monk's Mound in Illinois, and they're considered the largest known pre-Columbian mounds, standing nearly 100 feet high and more than 9 times as long as those that are in Missouri. So obviously, as part of this, the discussion that, maybe these were Nephites or Lamanites that could have made these mounds. I don't think the church has ever made such a claim that we have any sort of affiliation with these mounds.
Would they or should they?
No, 100%, right? Unless we know, please let us not step into it unless we.
You're right. If
know.
the angel Moroni came back down and said, "By the way, here you go," maybe we would make a different statement.
And then maybe you're circling back about it and you're like, Roseanne Barr, I didn't know she was Mormon. Yeah, grew up in Salt Lake City in a Jewish family, and she explained her childhood faith as this. And I think that this is just a great telling of not only who Roseanne is, but also about her faith growing up. She says, "Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning, I was a Jew. Sunday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, and Wednesday afternoon, we were Mormons." And undoubtedly, that's because that was when they would have, like, the primary would meet in the middle of the week, and probably they went to some sort of meeting, Sunday afternoon, and then, MIA on Wednesday nights or something like that. So that is Roseanne Barr, the former Mormon.
Those two,
Mormon.
out of the two, the one who's less crazy to me is Roseanne Barr.
I agree with that. And he's still crazy.
Yeah.
But Tucker Carlson's one of those, like Glenn Beck. And I can get sucked into something they're talking about.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, man, they have a point. And then all of a sudden, right when they have me, and I'm thinking, oh, they have a point. They say something way crazy. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I almost got sucked in there.
Yeah. I should say, I love getting sucked into stuff like that. But it is fascinating to me the way that that, like, these, and I guess I shouldn't be so surprised, but some of these news performers know that that's exactly what they're doing, right?
I love that.
Yeah, no,
They totally
absolutely.
know.
They know exactly.
And Glenn Beck, I've met Glenn Beck and had the conversation with Glenn Beck. This is before he sort of got super crazy. We were both at a radio convention together. I was like, "Hey, I am too. Look," and he's like, "Oh, that's awesome." But we talked about being Mormon, and I was like, "You seem like a logical, reasonable, level-headed individual," and then you see them on the screen, and you're like,
"Yeah."
And to your point, Andrew, it's. You are drawing me in. I will stick through the commercial break because I think you're crazy.
You'll see that little clip, and the little clip is like, he's right. And then you'll click on the little clip. You'll watch a minute or two, or even 5 minutes, and you're like, man, I think maybe I've misjudged Glenn Beck. And all of a sudden, whoa.
Yep.
Like, nope, I did not misjudge. That was not a
Whoa.
Okay, we're to some fun stories. We haven't really talked about this. I thought this was interesting, and since we've got Megan here, I'd love to get a perspective of all of ours. Do either of you guys have a really pressing story that you're like, man, it needs to be in this episode of Articles of News?
You know me. I've got my story that no, I don't have it.
Megan?
I'm good.
Okay. The women on the stand, this in California, so I'll set this up as best as I know. In a couple particular stakes, maybe lots of stakes, there were women that were able to be up on the stand. The way that particular stake went about it, or at least one of the stakes went about it. The stake president said, hey, you know what? We think that it's a great idea if a woman from one of the organizations sits up on the stand, just like the bishopric does, or on occasion when the elders quorum does. We think it's a great showing of women in the ward, and the women that would practice this felt like it was a great opportunity to be able to see the congregation like how the bishop is
I
able
love
to
this
see it.
idea. Now I want to know where you're going.
Right. So being able to see the ward, some at first said, hold on, that means I'm going to have to leave my husband with my kids, and that will be difficult, or how do we do it? But these various wards found different ways of doing it. Some where just the Relief Society president from the ward, you sit on the stand. If you're called to be the Relief Society president, you sit on the stand. That's the thing. And others that would be like, you know what, we've got 4 in the presidency, so the president will take 1 week and first counselor and second counselor, but it allowed them to kind of see who was there, to be able to see their demeanor, to be able to, see who's coming in and who's coming out, things that they wouldn't been able to see. So they thought, man, it's a great idea. And for some people, and in some places, it had gone on more than a decade. It's also reflected that this happens, at least to the point of publishing this article, that it was happening in Europe in some places, but someone in the area presidency that serves over California came and said, hey, the women on the stand thing, we're done. We're not doing that anymore. And so now there are some of those folks who had been sitting on the stand, or people who were in congregations that are like, wait, why can't we do this anymore? We were doing this in a way. Can someone please explain this to us in a way that will make sense and not just feel punitive? So, Andrew, you already said you feel like it's a good idea. I'm of the mind that it's a good idea as well, for the reasons I stated. What do you think, Megan?
I might be the dissenter here.
Please.
On the surface, I think the idea is fine, right?
Okay.
Like, okay, sure, have women sit up there. They do it at general conference.
Sure.
You've got the auxiliary presidents up there. But it doesn't make any sort of a difference to me unless things are happening behind the scenes that allows women to have more of a voice. If it's just women sitting up on the stand, but the conversations are the same in ward council and state council, then it's all performative. And then I look at it and I'm like, then it doesn't make a difference, because
then
like
why
I've been in
bother?
positions.
Then it's just a show.
Yeah, because it's just like, it's just for show. It's just to appease the ladies, and I would much rather have it be a guarantee that when a woman is sitting on a ward council, her voice is heard, her input is taken, her feelings and her thoughts and her ideas are validated and put into practice. When it comes to women's visibility in the church, I care much more about that than I do who's sitting up on the stand. Does that make sense?
Sure. Do you feel like
I think that's vastly more important.
Oh, I was going to push back just a bit, because sometimes the only way you can get to what you're talking about behind the scenes is to do the stuff up front. Give women more visibility in the church on the stand, so people understand that their voice does matter, right? And so sometimes that's, you can hide behind if you can hide behind the ward council, and they can be problematic back there. But from one ward, the ward council will be great with women, another ward will be, and it can go from bishop to bishop. But I think when you put them up on the stand, it's a twofold thing. So I agree with you in the sense that if you just did the stand and nothing else changed, that's a problem. But I think sometimes the only way to get it to change is to actually do the show of it. Put them on the stand so people understand that they are just as important as the elders quorum president, and just as important as the bishopric and the first counselor and whoever else that's in. And so to that point, I'm going to push back just a bit.
Yeah, I think
I can understand that.
Yeah, I think it's significant to have for people, again, and maybe I'm sort of missionary minded today, but like if I'm visiting a church and I look up there and I go, Wade, where are all the women? Certainly that doesn't change, and that a woman sitting on the stand doesn't give the women the priesthood,
Right.
and that's not a discussion that we're having right now. But I mean, it doesn't change that, but it does go, oh, I can see myself represented, my my individuality, my sex represented as a leadership, as someone we're looking towards the, towards the ward. And then I also do think that, to your point, Andrew, I think that it's, man, she's the Relief Society president and she's up there and she is important as well. I think that can go miles, but yeah, you're right. Megan, there's, if it's just like, you got your place on the stand. Now you want to talk in this meeting too. No, like that to me. Yeah. Absurd.
Yeah.
I hope that we're not anywhere near that perspective anymore.
I've been in not in my current living situation, not in my current ward or stake, but in previous stakes, I've been in ward councils where they've asked me to share an idea and I share the idea and they say, okay, well, we're just going to do what we've always done. And I'm like, then why did you even ask? And if they were then to be like, well, come sit on the stand, I'd be like, why?
Right.
Why? Because the place where it actually, like, where things can actually happen, like no policy is we're not deciding policy, but nothing is being decided up on the stand on Sunday during sacrament meeting.
Right.
It's happening behind the scenes. And so it's like, why would you want me up there?
But if you're in the congregation and you see someone on the stand and you're thinking, I need help or someone to advise me, if the only people you see are the bishopric, that may be the only people you go to. When you see someone else, and this is back to taking care of the one. When the one needs assistance, and even in the case where nowadays a lot of times the bishop says, "Hey, I need to spread out." Like people will call the bishop first for everything. Yep. When really that's not the case. That's not the right way to go.
Sure.
The elders quorum president, Relief Society president are the ones who should be handling the majority of those types of situations, but most people don't feel comfortable doing that. But if they put them on the stand, now that they might feel more comfortable talking to them because they feel like that they're visible that way. So I think that I think the twofold. I think if you only did one or the other, maybe it's not as useful. But if both are occurring, and we've seen that, I will give I will say that they flattened the power structure in the wards over the last few years significantly, where it really is the case that we don't have the separate council of priesthood executive council anymore, where that's where the real things happen. The ward council is become the main thing. So now it's just a matter of changing minds and hearts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also, to speak to your point, Andrew, sorry, I know we're low on time, but, if somebody needs help, if somebody comes into our sacrament meeting and doesn't know who to go to, there's also some onus on us as members to be reaching out to the people sitting in the pew next to us.
Yes.
So that maybe
Absolutely.
somebody turns to me and says, oh, Sister Mitchell, I'm having this issue. Who can I go to about it? Then also that would be on me to make sure that I'm fellowshipping and I'm reaching out to the one and that I'm doing my duty, living my covenants to help them out and say, let me introduce you to the Relief Society president. She can help you with A, B, C, D, and E. Or here's my husband. He's the elders quorum president. He would love to help arrange your move. No, he wouldn't. But
he would love to give you a phone number of some movers that could help you so that we don't have to do it.
Exactly. Or he would love to arrange a priesthood blessing for your wife or your child, or something like that. And so I don't know. It's one of those things where I just look at it and I'm like, I just don't know that it's that deep personally to have women on the stand. It's not a bad thing. I also just don't know if it's going to bring the change that people think it would or would hope that it does. But
we are the change. We as individuals are the change.
That's right. True.
Real quick, putting you guys on the spot. New Year's resolution for 2024. Go, Andrew. One thing.
I gotta release my next book.
There it is.
I completed the raw draft. I don't even call it a rough draft. The raw draft over the Christmas season, and so now it's a year of rewriting, refining, and putting a new one out by next. It'll be November, early November. I'll release it.
Perfect.
Yay.
Megan,
congratulations. To develop my relationship with the Savior through the Book of Mormon.
All right.
Sure. Oh, she stole.
I know.
Now I say a book, and then she totally makes me. Mine's hers too, and then my book.
Yeah, and then
Well, it's
my
because I'm a gospel doctrine teacher now, and
oh
it's
yeah.
something I've never done, and it's all the Book of Mormon. So that's what I'm gonna do.
So rephrased, Andrew, not suck in her calling is what she's saying, but she did it
A little bit.
in a far more like positive way.
Listen,
gonna-
I want to magnify my calling, and it'll have good ramifications on my life.
There it is. Mine paying my house off in 2024. Hands up in the
Woo!
air. Whoop, 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 whoop. And then also Megan's thing. And also I'm writing a book that'll come out in November. We hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body.
And if you're not healthy enough to listen this week, you'll be healthy enough to listen next week.
And when the time comes, you'll be able to travel home in safety.
In the meantime, we'll be saving a seat for you
On the back
On
row
the back row
of
of
the
the
cultural
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 hall.
hall.